Tim, I want to start with you. What was the interest of a Yahoo from a Verizon AOL standpoint? Why buy it?
You know, really, we've been really clear. I think one thing that Marni and I have done is collectively come up with some real large-scale goals for the company, and we really want to be competitive in the next generation of how digital's really taking over the world from a consumer media standpoint. So we laid out a set of 2020 goals when we did our deal last year. The main goal around that is to get to 2 billion consumers by 2020. So, you know, for us, the Yahoo brand is an excellent brand. The Yahoo team is an excellent team, and it really fits into the larger strategy that Verizon has. So I think from our standpoint, if you look at what we announced 12 months ago on our original deal to what's getting announced today, you'll see an absolute thread line of straight focus and straight strategy focus for us overall.
Marni, this is not a big surprise. I mean, you signaled this, the market understood this is likely where it was going, but Yahoo has been in decline, and in fact, it has been losing money. How quickly can you turn that around by putting it together with the AOL and other Verizon assets?
Yeah, look, it's going to take a lot of work, and we have a lot of confidence in the leadership and Tim and his team and all of the talent at Yahoo. We understand that it'll take some work to integrate it, but we're confident that there are brands that people love, and there's billions, as Tim said, in terms of audience that we can bring to the platform. We also have a number of assets across Verizon that we'll continue to use to strengthen this business. So we know it's hard work. Putting two companies together always is, but we feel like we've got the right talent and the right leadership to make that happen.
Marni, can you be a little bit more specific? I mean, we expect you to come on here and say they're great assets. That's why you paid $4.8 billion for them. But actually identify the assets that Verizon has that can make a job of Yahoo that others could not.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, if you start with just the product technology. So when we bought AOL, it was obviously about Tim and his talent and the ad tech capabilities. He also had great brands, but frankly, we weren't at scale like we needed to be. And as Tim mentioned, Yahoo gives us scale that takes us out of the millions and into the billions. So combining those two is already the right start for us. But we also have been investing in content assets across Verizon. So you've seen us go from just licensing linear content and moving into ownership, a company called Complex, which we have a 50% ownership in. We're building out our own digital channels. We also made an investment in Awesomeness TV, and we're making investments in mobile, which is incredibly important on how we scale this business. So our goal is to take all of those content assets and bring those across the digital platforms that bring more people to our platform and ultimately make the flywheel spin.
Tim, a lot of people would say when you merge two companies, it's difficult and people will lose their jobs. But when you merge two ad platforms, two pieces of technology, that's very difficult. Just tell me how exactly you're going to do that.
Yeah, I think just, again, taking a step back, it's, probably the most important time in global advertising. $600 billion industry, a fraction of it is digitized at this point, and eventually, advertising will be as easy as e-commerce. So it's really about putting together those commerce systems. The same way you buy things online, we will be building with Yahoo a combined set of platforms and assets to really attack that $600 billion industry. And from where we sit right now, I think the integration is really going to be focused on our planning process with Yahoo. One of the things that happened in the auction dynamic is we haven't had a tremendous chance to sit down with them and go in detail through some of the assets. And I think Marni just hit on it, but if you look at the combined asset set, the reason this deal is different is you're going to go everywhere from mobile video at scale with incredible content from the NFL and NBA all the way through our ad tech platforms and systems. So from a combined entity, we will be serving over 1 billion consumers with some of the best brands in the world, some of the best partners in the world, and some of the best ad tech in the world. And by the way, we work in Silicon Valley all the time. We have a big offices, multiple offices there, and the Yahoo team we've spent time with. I think we both have a similar strategy and similar outcomes. And there may be synergies in the deal, but this deal is about growth, and we're going to focus on the growth areas. Synergies will come, but it's got to start with strategy, structure, and then cost structure as the third item.
Marni, talk a little bit about who's going to be running what. It was the popular belief that Marissa Mayer would no longer be part of Yahoo in any capacity after the core business was sold. We did get a headline crossing just before our interview that says that for her personally, she is planning to stay. Talk about who's running what, who has what job.
Yeah, so as Tim mentioned, this process was a bit different. When we bought AOL, Tim and Lowell and all of the management team were working side by side to talk about who was going to lead, what roles people would play. And so we were doing that before the deal even closed. This one, because it's an auction, we didn't have the ability to talk freely about some of those things because there was competitive bids coming in. So Tim and I will be out in the Bay Area this week with Marissa and her team. We're going to talk about integration plans. Obviously, we can't act on those yet, but we'll plan, and we'll come back to you and talk to you about who's in what leadership roles. But for us, for Verizon, Tim will lead this integration for us, and we will work closely with Marissa and her team to make sure that we have the best and smooth integration and retain all of the best talent.
So Tim, I want to come back to you and ask, you're number 3 now, but a distant number 3, I think it's fair to say, to Google and to Facebook in the mobile advertising business. What do you need to get to that scale? Is this enough? And what, if anything, does a Verizon give you that Google and Facebook don't have?
Yeah, first, I mean, if you look forward, there's one word that really matters is mobile. I think Verizon is the best company on the planet at serving consumers with mobile services. And then you look at the investments Verizon has made. It is a company that has aggressively moved from just being a network into being a full service provider for consumers. So I think that's a huge differentiation from Google and Facebook and some of the other people in the marketplace. The second piece is that, mobile in terms of media consumption has radically changed the way consumers are intaking media and intaking advertising. So if you took a step back and said, hey, today's my first day on planet Earth, what do you think the most important aspects to focus on would be, and who would you partner with? The combination of AOL, Verizon, and Yahoo is a very, very substantial partnership in a landscape where people are constantly focused on Facebook and Google. But the reality is, if you look at the hundreds of media companies in the world, hundreds of internet companies in the world, being number 3 with an opportunity to gain market share is what this deal is about. And I'd say for the Verizon side of the house, this is a very smart deal. You look at the top 5 internet companies in the world, their valuations are in the hundreds of billions. Verizon's in 12 months has gotten into this space, for an investment of around $10 billion. So I think when you look up and say we're number 3 at a very reasonable investment size overall compared to what the upside valuation is, and you have a very hard-working team of people at Yahoo, at AOL, and Verizon, they're going to work well together. This is a very, very strategic deal and a very important deal for the future. So I think our market share today is only going to grow, based on our opportunity to scale.
Marni, Tim is always very persuasive, at least he is to me when I talk to him. But you really have a long way to grow to catch up with the big guys, as a practical matter. Do you need to buy some more companies? Is this the end, or in order to get to scale, are there more acquisitions in your future?
Look, I think, we'll never say it's the end, but we think this is a really good start for us. And as I've said, we've been assembling and making investments in content. It's been sort of the, millennial content that's growing at record paces. So we'll continue to do that. We'll also continue to work with our partners. We've had a number of people reach out to both Tim and I and to Lowell this morning who all are excited about the deal. So through partnership, through investment, we will continue to scale this business. I think, Verizon hasn't been shy at scaling businesses, so I think you'll see us do it again. And when we do something, we plan to compete and we plan to be successful.
Marni, just talk to me about that process then. Let's say you identify another acquisition. Who's driving that at Verizon? Is it you, and do you have a blank check?
Well, no, I don't have a blank check, but I would tell you it's a team effort. We have several things that we always continue to look at, and we've got a team that helps support that. Tim and I will continue to talk about how we scale this business, so he plays a huge role there. But we'll continue to be active, but it's got to be the right things at the right time.
Marni, or Tim for that matter, there'll be a jump ball. Take us out 2-3 years. Let's assume this is a really successful deal. What made it successful? Is it because you're really succeeding on the advertising side and the content side, or is it because you're really selling more wireless as a practical matter? And I know you're going to say both, but what really drove this deal?
Yeah, maybe if I just step back a minute, and then I'll have Tim comment on this too, but one of the charters that I have is not only to build products and services for our three core businesses, but Lowell and the board have asked that we stand up businesses that can generate multiple billion dollars of revenue in the future. And so the goal for this is to create an incremental opportunity. Obviously, we always want our core businesses to grow, but this is about standing up a business that will generate that kind of revenue in the future. And so we hope both grow, and we believe they will, but this is a new stream of business for Verizon.
I would just say that I think the famous saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast is, the culture is the number one thing that we want to get done with the Yahoo team and with Marissa and her team. And one of the things we've taken a lot of time with Verizon is basically integrating the cultures together. And, today we're a much different company. We did the Millennial deal, we did the Microsoft deal, now we're announcing the Yahoo deal. So we have many cultures coming together, and it's really important, I think, that the Yahoo team, who bleeds purple, they love Yahoo, feels like our commitment to the Yahoo brand in the future is an important aspect of this. So if you go forward 3 years, I think you have to see revenue growth, profit growth, and but more importantly, I think culture growth. And really, from our standpoint, the people coming together and working properly together and excited for the future is the most important aspect of the deal.
Tim, you took us right to the heart of it, about the culture eating strategy for breakfast. Most deals fail because of the culture clash, because they don't get it integrated. You know that Yahoo comes from a very West Coast, Silicon Valley kind of culture, as opposed to AOL East Coast. What are the challenges of putting those two cultures together?
Well, I think, one thing I would just update everybody on is, we have a huge presence in Silicon Valley. And, I started my career back in working for Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, at the world's first internet content company, Starwave. And that's really when the West Coast started to take off for the consumer internet. And I've spent my time shuttling between New York and California for the last 15 or 20 years. So I think we're probably uniquely positioned as a company and a management team to understand both coasts. And I actually think the future, we call it culture and code at AOL, but the real culture of New York mixed with the code of Silicon Valley and the rest of the world is really what's going to make this successful. And I think you're seeing you see LA popping up, you see the work New York's doing, you see London, Paris. I was just over in Paris at Vivitech that Publicis threw, which was amazing. So I don't think Silicon Valley and New York are different anymore. I think that basically what you're doing is bringing culture and code together, and we are probably the best positioned company on the planet to do that.
Well, for our viewers on TV and our listeners in radio, we're listening to Marni Walden, Verizon EVP of Product Innovation, and Tim Armstrong, co-chairman and CEO of AOL. Marni, I want to go back to sort of who and how people will be leading this combined Yahoo-Verizon company. You mentioned you weren't ready yet to say what you were going to do with Marissa Mayer or who was going to take on what role. But considering that there was so much pressure from Yahoo shareholders under Mayer's reign, and she was not able to turn that company around, had to resort to a sale, make the case for wanting to keep her in any kind of role aside from transitory?
Look, again, as I said, this process has been completely different than what we did with Tim and the AOL team. It's important that we spend time with Marissa and her leadership team this week. Marissa will be very key to successful integration. And so I'm going to leave it at that for now. And as I mentioned, we'll come back when the time's right, but it's premature to talk about who will be in what roles.
Understood. But then if you're going to definitely sort of look to Marissa Mayer during this transition process, how long do you expect that transition process to be?
Look, we did our AOL deal in roughly 3.5 months is the time it took to close. We're expecting that this one will take a bit longer. We'll know as we get further into it and cross all of the things that we need to cross. But we expect it to be the end of the year or first quarter before the transition is fully done. And so Tim, as I said, will be leading this for Verizon and AOL. And we'll be working on our plans to make sure that we have the best outcome for the employees, for our shareholders, and for all of our partners, which is extremely important to us.